here in Ann Arbor this wonderful Saturday evening for the Johns Hopkins versus Michigan men's lacrosse game. My name is Nina Rhines, and I'm here today with
Noelle, Bencie. So happy to be here today. It's currently 8:10 p.m. Starting our broadcast a little bit late today. Had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're here today to see Johns Hopkins, number 8 in the nation, versus the Michigan Wolverines. We're excited to be here.
It is currently 8 minutes into the first quarter, and the score is Johns Hopkins 1, Michigan 0. And it looks like a timeout was just called.
Yep, we see Johns Hopkins coming in strong. They just scored the first goal of the game within the first 7 minutes. So we are getting ready to see how this game plays out. Michigan is ranked number 6 nationally in shooting percentage. We'll see if they are able to come on top today. Last week we had a really difficult loss to Notre Dame. We lost, I believe, 18-8. It might have been, I think, worse than that, but that was a tough game to call last week. So we're excited to see how they do today.
I think you were right about the score of that Notre Dame game. And Notre Dame is ranked number 2 currently, so a very hard-fought game against Notre Dame by Michigan. It is also Michigan's military appreciation game today. So I think the first 100 fans received free T-shirts supporting the military. So very fun game to attend for the fans.
Nice. That's exciting. All right. It seems like Michigan and Johns Hopkins are coming out of their timeout, setting it back up.
And as we said before, it's just over 8 minutes in this quarter, so still plenty of time left in the game for Michigan to make some moves and for Johns Hopkins to continue their role. The ball is down on the Johns Hopkins defense side, and looks like play is about to resume. Michigan has the ball, number 29, making a rush for the goal. Passes behind the net and back around. Tight defense by Johns Hopkins, and it is knocked away. A loose ground ball and regained by Johns Hopkins. Johns Hopkins takes it down the field, passing it to number 77. And he charges towards goal, passing it to number 40, Garrett Degnan, and he scores, making the score 2-0 Johns Hopkins.
We come to this game, and it seems like Johns Hopkins, this is their 136th season as a lacrosse program. It's been, Johns Hopkins has held the field since 1883, which is actually quite interesting. They are the only men's lacrosse program in the nation with 1,000 or more all-time victories. So I guess you could say they're quite seasoned and veteran, I think, for this game, which is kind of a nice little play on words for the theme of the game today.
Also apparent by Johns Hopkins winning the face-off and bringing it down the field. Michigan is back on defense. They're passing it around the net, slowly but surely trying to make some momentum continue. Passes it to number 51 on Johns Hopkins. Number 49 takes the ball and crashes in towards the net. Michigan defense is holding up very well against Johns Hopkins so far on this possession, though. Looks like number 23 on Michigan knocks down Johns Hopkins, number 51, but no foul called. Johns Hopkins carries the ball around the net, passing it around, holding on to it behind the net, and shoots and misses. Number 36 on Johns Hopkins.
We can see Michigan playing a tight defense. They're being a little bit sporadic around the net. Really playing tight defense, making sure that there's no penetration.
Another shot on goal by number 51, Jonathan Peshko from Johns Hopkins. And Johns Hopkins regains control, taking it in from behind the net. Again, tight defense by Michigan, but another shot on goal by 16, but it goes far. And it looks like Michigan may finally get possession.
A lot of energy on the sideline today for Johns Hopkins. A lot more than Michigan. I think they're coming in with a lot of energy, a lot of momentum, starting off the game. Seen them be very, very quick today. Michigan seems a little bit lethargic.
I agree. Speaking of Michigan, number 19 carries it up the field, makes a shot from about half court, and makes a goal, making the score 1 Michigan, 2 Johns Hopkins.
That seems really out of place for Johns Hopkins today. There was nobody in front of the goal today. We don't know where their goalie was. They seemed very, very unorganized on the Johns Hopkins side.
It was a bit of a surprise as a viewer to see that.
Yeah.
I thought he was making a wide pass at first appearance.
Yeah, we saw Michigan come and charge up the field right about to half field and shoot directly right into the goal. So I'll have to do a little bit and see what that was about.
The momentum continues. Michigan wins the faceoff, quickly passing it around the net. Number 9 in control right now, passing it, holding on to the ball, trying to get around his defender. Tight defense by Johns Hopkins right now after that empty net goal before. Some quick substitutions by Michigan, still in control of the ball, passing it around, kind of taking their time, kind of allowing the offense to settle in while also giving the defense time to settle in as well. Michigan has the ball behind the net, trying to make their way around, passing it around. Number 9 has control, trying to charge in, but very good defense by number 18 on Johns Hopkins.
I was on baseball and hockey.
Michigan still passing it around.
And then I quit baseball after middle school because I didn't like any other people at sports.
Johns Hopkins playing very tight defense. And another shot on goal by number 40, and it goes in for Michigan, making the score a tie game at 2-2. How exciting. What a quick turnaround for Michigan. There's about 4:44 left in this quarter. And for what you were saying about the Michigan bench not having a lot of energy, it seems to really be turning the momentum
Yeah,
around.
I think I spoke too soon on that, Nina. You know, we had a goal by Cohen, assisted by Bame. This is Ryan Cohen's 16th goal of the season. We see the face-off again. Slips out, actually, recovered by 30 on Johns Hopkins. Slips out again for a second time. We see him rushed up the field by number 26, passed along the near side of the field, behind to number 25. Swung around, they're pacing, going far side of the field, pass again to midfield. You know, they're going around, pass back behind the net, number 40, then pass up to top of the offense side. Number 9 rushes around. Michigan playing tight defense. Pass to the back. Oh, it seems like the ball was dropped. Pass up far side, up to the top, number 33, about half field. Michigan playing tight defense. Passed to number 9. Looking for something, looking to make a play. Again, back up top. Using all of the field, Johns Hopkins is looking for something. Number 9. A lot of ball movement right now. A lot of movement. Tight around the goal. Number 31 looks for a strike. Doesn't find it. Oh, it seems like number 23 slipped. He's looking to recover. And we take, I believe that's a timeout, Nina, am I right? No?
I think it might have been a shot clock violation.
Shot clock? Okay.
Unsure, though. But Michigan regains possession, trying to clear it up the field. Pretty tight defense by Johns Hopkins at midfield. And it does look like a timeout was just called, I believe by Michigan. But actually, Johns Hopkins regains possession, trying to clear it up the field. pretty slow movement on the field right now. Everyone's kind of settling into play with Johns Hopkins having possession of the ball right around midfield. A dropped pass by number 51, but regained. And it looks like a whole lot of Michigan defense, but not a whole lot of Johns Hopkins offensive players down. While 49 just crashed down the field. A nice save by Michigan goalie, number 41, Shane Carr. And Michigan attempts to clear it. A high pass, but Michigan successfully takes it past midfield. And a whistle is called. I believe it is offsides. And a very aggressive check by Michigan number 40 and regained. Michigan has possession in Johns Hopkins defense.
Johns Hopkins goalie back in front of his goal.
Always a good place.
Always a
for
good place for the goalie to
make.
be, right?
A little bit of uncertainty on this stretch of movement. But Michigan has possession of the ball currently right around midfield. Looks like both offense and defense are settling, but Michigan number 1 makes a break for the goal. Makes a shot, but it is blocked, and Johns Hopkins regains possession, trying to clear it. And they successfully do, but Michigan's playing some pretty heavy defense. Kind of sitting with the ball, Johns Hopkins, waiting for everyone to settle into play. Number 9 for Johns Hopkins has the ball, making movement towards the back of the goal. Pretty tight defense by Michigan.
You know, Nina, we're seeing a lot of Michigan defense, but not a lot of Johns Hopkins defense.
I have to agree with you.
I haven't really seen the Michigan be able to gain possession at all. You know, seems like it's all right now. The Blue Jays are taking the dominance in terms of play creation.
Gotta agree with you. And pretty aggressive plays right now happening.
Mm-hmm.
With about 20 seconds left on the clock, Johns Hopkins takes it around the crease and tries to make a play in the last 16 seconds or so. So far unsuccessful, but spoke too soon. Shot on goal by number 23 for Johns Hopkins, making the score 3-2, Johns Hopkins lead.
There was a ground ball picked up by Scott Smith. It was then picked up by Ryan Cohen again.
And then I believe the goal was made by Johns Hopkins' Jacob Angelus, which is his 9th goal of the season.
That puts the score today back at 3-2 with the Michigan Wolverines down by 1 with 11.1 seconds left in the first period.
Back at the face-off, and Michigan has possession of the ball.
This is exciting to see.
About 5 seconds left. Let's see if they can make anything happen. A shot on goal goes far with 1.7 seconds left on the clock. It's thrown down the field, and that brings this period to an end. What are your thoughts on how the game has been going so far?
Very, very unpredictable. Unpredictable, you know, like this is, considering that they are number 8, I think they took their loss against Notre Dame very seriously this week. They don't seem like the same team that they were last week. They have energy, they got momentum. They're not really, their defense last week, they were lethargic, you know, but it seems that's how they usually play. They are very, very strong and tight in the first quarter, not really letting up any points. I believe last game they were down by 3 in the first period and then allowed the gap in the score to become 10 in an 18-8 loss.
Tough loss for Michigan. And I believe this is also their first Big Ten game of the season. And another fun fact, Michigan's head coach, Kevin Conroy, was a 2004 graduate of Johns Hopkins, and he played long stick midfield for the Blue Jays. So this might be a very personal game for him, as he has ties to both teams, but doesn't seem to be letting that stop him from trying to get an upper hand on Johns Hopkins.
No, I'm sure he has some sentiment toward the Blue Jays, but he'll always be a Wolverine.
Of course, of course.
Nina, what are your thoughts about the way Michigan has kind of had difficulty gaining possession on the offense?
I think it's a little surprising considering they're supposed to be known to being an offensive team. They rank 6th nationally in shooting percentage, so with statistics like that, you would kind of think that they would be doing a little better offensively. But you do have to consider that the Johns Hopkins men's team is ranked 8th nationally, so that comes into play.
Like you said, I mean, Michigan has had 4 shot attempts with 2 on-goal makes, which is actually exactly the same percentage for Johns Hopkins as well. They're 12 shot attempts with 6 on goal, so they're both about 50% in shooting percentage. But Johns Hopkins just had 12 shots while Michigan has only had 4. So it just goes to show the discrepancy between the two possessions.
Both teams retake their places on the fields, and both are meeting at face-off. Looks like Michigan wins the face-off, and the second quarter is beginning. Michigan slowly taking the ball down the field. Number 40 making a quick break for the goal, but passing it behind the crease. Passing it around to other players in maize and blue. Slowly settling into their play this quarter. Slowly passing it back and forth. Remaining a pretty open offense, not really crashing in yet. Number 40 passes it way back. It goes overhead, and I believe it becomes an offsides ball. Johns Hopkins getting possession I stand corrected, Michigan regains possession at half court. A little unclear on what the whistle is being blown for, and the refs are currently discussing among each other, I believe, who gets possession. It's about 14-14 left in this quarter, so a lot of time for both teams to get action regardless of which way it goes. Some substitutions are being made. The refs are having a heated discussion with Michigan coach, and Johns Hopkins ends up getting possession, I believe.
What I learned from football is like first half doesn't really matter.
Johns Hopkins has possession and play resumes, passing it along to each other. Number 25 has the ball currently, makes a run for the middle, but passes it back to number 51. Number 25 tries to make a break, throws it wide, and it becomes Michigan ball. Michigan tries to clear it up the field, slowly but surely taking their time trying to bring it up.
Very fast-paced game today. A lot more than we've seen for the Wolverines.
Definitely a fast-paced game. And considering it's a pretty close score with a score of 3-2, Johns Hopkins. Pretty surprising, or unsurprising that it's so fast-paced. Michigan has possession on behind the goalie net, trying to bring it around. And a stick gets decked in the air. Johns Hopkins regains possession, bringing it down the field. Number 46 carries it down, passes it back to number 12, who passes it to number 18, who takes a shot, and it is saved by Michigan goalie. Michigan's attempting to clear it down the field with some pretty tight defense by Johns Hopkins, but they successfully bring it down. Both teams are taking some time to settle in, with Michigan in possession of the ball in Johns Hopkins territory. Michigan passes it behind the net with some tight defense, trying to get around both defensemen, but passes it around successfully. Shoots and scores, and that was Michigan number 22 who just made that goal. Isaac Aronson, a junior on the Michigan team. And that ties up the score at 3-3 at 12:25 in the quarter.
Well, this is exciting. Well, we see that today Johns Hopkins, this is actually their first, or not their first, but it's one of 6 games that are not against ranked teams. Right now their score is their ranking is 7-3. So it's kind of surprising to see the way that Michigan is really able to keep up against this nationally ranked team.
It's pretty impressive considering Michigan has not played that many teams so far in the season.
Nope, I think Michigan is starting their season kind of late, playing only 4. This is their 5th game, whereas Johns Hopkins is going into their 8th.
Michigan wins the face-off and has possession of the ball in Johns Hopkins territory. A lot of movement on the field, but no real plays made towards the goal, but bringing it back around behind the net. Number 22 has the ball, attempts to pass, but decides against it. A lot of passing by Michigan so far. A lot of good communication among the team. Passing it back up high, and number 40 on Michigan makes the shot, but it goes high.
Seems like there was a little bit of dispute with number 30 or number 22. It was kind of on the Johns Hopkins team, kind of getting a little temperamental with the ref. Michigan passes it away and kind of got lost in the far side of the field.
You have to wonder if the wind and the weather today has any impact on how
the
game is being played.
I honestly, you look at the flag right now, and it's blowing out there. So I'm sure it's difficult for them. It's not like a usual game.
Not a perfect sunny day. And speaking of, Michigan and Johns Hopkins, we're currently battling for a ground ball, and the shot clock runs out, making it a Johns Hopkins possession.
Tight defense on both sides today. Both teams have had a little bit of difficulty managing the shot clock.
A lot of energy on both benches. Johns Hopkins has the ball right about midfield, trying to bring it down. Slowly passing it back and forth, settling into a groove with their plays. The offense is taking it around the net, slowly passing it around. Definitely stepping up their movement and their quickness. Good defense by Michigan, though, but a shot on goal by Johns Hopkins. It looks like it hit the rim of the net in that case.
Yeah.
And a whistle was blown. It seems to be a timeout called.
It's an exciting game today. A lot more energy today than I've seen. It's a timeout by Johns Hopkins. Well, the score right now is 3 Blue Jays, 3 Wolverines with 10 minutes and 11 seconds left on the clock for the second period. We see that last week, Johns Hopkins picked up a 12-10 coming from behind win against Delaware on Sunday night. So I'm sure that they're not one to fall behind and allow the gap to increase. So we'll see that if Michigan does take the lead. I wouldn't write off Johns Hopkins just yet, considering that they are not in their home field and they're number 8 in the nation. So right now it's kind of a toss up, it's gonna come down to who holds the other to the shot clock and which defense takes the lead, because regardless of the sport, Nina, defense wins games.
Defense wins championships. I have to agree with you there. And also just looking at the different teams both programs have played so far this season, I do have to say Johns Hopkins has had a tougher schedule leading up to
By
this.
far.
Both teams lost to number 1 Virginia. However, it was a much closer match between Johns Hopkins. They lost 13-18, while when Michigan played Virginia, they lost 17-13. So pretty even, but slightly closer game for Johns Hopkins.
No, I think, like I said before, Johns Hopkins has played 6 of its 10 games against teams ranked in the top 20 in the nation at the time of the game. So, whereas Michigan has an overall record of 4-3, you know, and then this is obviously their first Big Ten game for both teams. So, I think it just comes down to the energy that's in the stadium tonight, and not really letting up on Johns Hopkins, who came here to win.
Very clear by the way they've been playing so far. Johns Hopkins has control of the ball right now. But Michigan defense playing pretty aggressively, matching up to Johns Hopkins' aggressive offense. Number 49 has possession for Johns Hopkins, but passes it off to 40. Again, pretty tight defense by Michigan. And yeah, slowly passes it off. A loose ball picked up by Michigan. So Michigan regains control. A nice job by Michigan defense on this turn of events. And they successfully clear it down the field against a pretty tough stick check by Johns Hopkins. Passing it around, and a nice shot by number 9 Michigan, making the score. Michigan 4, Johns Hopkins 3.
That was a shot by...
I believe it was number 9, but there was definitely
it was a goal by Josh Zuwada, his 15th of the season, assisted by, again, Michael Boehm, goal number 15 for the season. So it seems like Josh Zuwada and Michael Boehm are working together in this game today. You know, they seem to be a team in between the two of them, the leaders on the field.
They are definitely one of the higher scoring duos on this team. And Michigan wins the face-off.
It seems
actually they appear to have lost the face-off. Unsure of what happened there, but Michigan has control of the ball in their own defense, though.
Yep, we see that Michigan is now up to 4 with the lead against the Blue Jays, leading behind at 3. We have number 19, rushed it down the field, didn't find anything, pass it to 99, then over to number 5 on the far side of the field. He's looking for something, calling over from the midfield, somewhere to help. Pass to number 15 in the midfield. Number 15 to the near side, number 29. He's looking. Nothing there. 15 over to 22 on the far side. .22 Michigan looking for some plays, coming into the goal. Pass behind the net, over to the near side, number 40. Then back up to number 9. He's looking for something. A lot of momentum. Number 29. Try to make a rush. Try to make a pass. And it's goal. Bringing Michigan up to 5-3. That was a goal by, I believe, Josh Zuwada again.
Yeah, definitely a good run by Michigan right there. Good job just kind of staying aggressive, staying with the ball. And yeah, as we wait for that goal.
Actually, I misspoke. That was a goal by Peter Thompson, his 9th of the season, putting Michigan up to 5-3 against the nationally ranked number 8 Johns Hopkins University Blue Jays.
Pretty impressive showing for Michigan so far this quarter. And it does appear that Johns Hopkins has won this face-off, slowly settling into play, waiting for offense and defense to come in. Slow start to this play, but Johns Hopkins makes a quick rush for the net, winds up for a shot, takes it, and number 40 on Johns Hopkins scores, bringing the score back to 5-4. And I believe that was a goal by Garrett Dagnon from Johns Hopkins.
That was his 22nd of the season.
Pretty impressive numbers
Yeah,
there.
very impressive numbers. All right, we see the formation coming back, getting ready for the face-off. We have number 32 coming in for the face-off.
loose ball at the face-off, recovered by Michigan, but some pretty harsh checking by Johns Hopkins. Recovered by Michigan goalie. An open net right now. Michigan passing it around, trying to clear it up the field.
Nice high lob to midfield to number
9, Josh
number 9,
Sawada.
Josh Suwada.
Pretty common name today.
Ball's at the top of the Johns Hopkins offensive side. Or excuse me, defensive side. Number 29, Peter Thompson, rushing it around to number 5, Michael Boehm. To a shot attempt, it was blocked by number 10 on Johns Hopkins. Pass it across Johns Hopkins side over to midfield to number 20. Breaks through some press. See, they're moving it up, moving slow in the midfield. Number 40 on the Johns Hopkins side, cradling it up in midfield and over to number 25. And now we're on the near side. Number 31 looking for a play. He's looking. Oh, seems like there's a check.
Checking going
Yeah.
on.
Now we're back to the number 25 on the near side. He's looking, Michigan defense not letting him up. There's a rush, there's a save. There was a shot attempt saved by number 41 on the Michigan side, Shane Carr. All right, Johns Hopkins recovers the ball again. Passed up to number 40, then lobbed around. Number 25, excuse me. He's looking for something, looking, cradling. Pass back behind the net. Seems like they're trying to find a strike, trying to make a play. Nothing there. Passed up to the top of the Michigan defensive side. Shot attempt was blocked again by number 41, Shane Carr.
Looks like Johns Hopkins still has possession, making this quite a long offensive run for them. And it seems like the play clock just ran out.
You know, we've seen a lot of that, Nina, like a lot more than we're used to with the shot clock running out.
Yeah, I guess it goes to show how good the defenses are both playing today. And that did just look like the ball was a rough pass. It hit Michigan in the helmet, went out of bounds, and it's now Johns Hopkins' ball. So a pretty tough loss for Michigan right there. But number 49 has possession right about midfield for Johns Hopkins, slowly making their way down the field towards the goal. Number 9 has the ball, kind of charges towards the goal, passes it back to number 31, who shoots and scores. A pretty impressive shot on goal for that one too. And yeah, very impressive shot. Looks like Johns Hopkins has a lot more energy on the bench as they tie the game up at 5-5 with 4:30 left in this quarter.
Yep, that was a goal by Russell Melendez, who has his 13th goal of the season today. We have Johns Hopkins winning or actually tied up at 5-5 with 4 minutes and 33 seconds left on the clock.
Johns Hopkins wins the faceoff, making a quick charge towards the goal as a whistle is called. I believe that was a timeout called by Johns Hopkins, but they had a lot of momentum going on that play, so a little unclear on why they stopped that.
All right, so it seems like teams are coming together, reconvening for the timeout. We have the Blue Jays and the Wolverines tied at 5-5 with 4 minutes left on the clock in the second period. You know, we're winding down, Nina, to halftime. What are your predictions for the second half?
I think it's going to be a good second half. So far, both teams have kind of responded to each other team's play, with Michigan getting 2 goals on and then Johns Hopkins just getting 2 goals. It's been a pretty impressive game, I have to say. And just looking at Michigan's past performance this season, a little surprising they've been able to hold their own with this nationally ranked program.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see, considering I can't say almost, I have to say all of their all of their goals have been answered within 2-3 minutes of the last one. So we'll just honestly, I think it comes down to who is going to have the energy at the end of this game, because it seems like every player on each team is putting everything into their game to win. So because I think this is their first Big Ten game of the season for both teams. So they want to. I think each team is trying to determine who is going to take that lead into the Big Ten. As the season continues.
Definitely an important game for both teams, but I would say especially Michigan, if they're able to upset this ranked team, who knows, that might bring them into contention for maybe receiving their own rankings sometime soon. But
even though Johns Hopkins is ranked number 8, Michigan ranks 6th nationally in shooting percentage. They have a scoring of 34% of their shots taken, and I think that goes to show today with the shots that were taken against the Blue Jays. They're 12 shot attempts with 6. Oh, my fault. They were 18 shot attempts with 5 goals made.
And looks like just another shot attempt by Johns Hopkins, but it goes wide, it looks, and Michigan regains possession, trying to clear it off their own defense. But some tight coverage from Johns Hopkins.
A lot of pressure in the Michigan side, trying to find a little space in the midfield. Passed up on the Johns Hopkins side. Number 22 looking for trying to make a play with their possession, trying to make the most out of the time that they have with the ball. Pass behind the net to number 40. He's trying to make a play on the far side of the field. He comes behind the net, rushing. Pass up top to the number 5, then around to number 2, Jog Bonomi. Goes around, back of the net. Oh, checked by number 77, passed up to number 40. Oh, there seemed to be shot attempt. It was saved.
Saved by the goalie. Johns Hopkins brings it up the field. Some tight coverage from Michigan initially, but bring it down all the way. Number 9 currently has possession, passes it to 23, and passes it back to number 38. Players are currently going back and forth to remain not on offsides, but Johns Hopkins kind of settles with the ball, but slowly charging closer to the goal. Passes it back to number 31, who passes it even further back.
Johns Hopkins trying to answer Michigan's previous goal, trying to make sure that lead state, that they don't fall behind and have Michigan in the lead, trying to keep that score today at 5-5.
Pretty impressive defense by Michigan right here. And Johns Hopkins winds up for the shot and makes it. Number 40 for Johns Hopkins gives them the lead.
Gives them the lead today.
Making the score 6-5. Pretty impressive turn of events right there. And number 40 on their team is Garrett Degnon. So he's been also quite familiar name tonight.
Yeah, that was his 23rd goal of this season. It was assisted by Melendez, his 7th assist of the season.
Both teams back at face-off, scrambling for the ball. The referee almost gets run over in the process.
Doesn't seem like the refs are calling many fouls today. A lot of checking, a lot of tight defense. It seems like the refs are just letting the game play today.
I have to agree with you there. But Johns Hopkins has possession of the ball, passing it around the net, settling into a piece of play. Number 49 passes it to number 9, who has possession right about half field, center field. Number 23 has possession, makes a quick pass to number 40 again, who makes a shot and Can't tell if it was deflected by the goalie or if it hit the rim of the net.
I think it was deflected by the goalie.
With about a minute left in this quarter, Johns Hopkins still has possession. Behind the net, trying to bring it around. Pass up top to number 9. Who makes a break behind the net, passes it to number 23. Some tight defense by Michigan. But number 23 brings it around the net, passes it up to no one. Michigan runs to get the ground ball, and they recover it, slowly trying to clear it with about 25 seconds left. Michigan takes the ball down the field, passing it to number 9. With a whole lot more Johns Hopkins players than Michigan players on the field, Michigan takes a timeout with 17 and a half seconds left.
You know, Michigan down at the half. You know, we have 17.5 seconds left in the first quarter. We'll see if they pull through and answer Johns Hopkins' last goal, make it 6-6 at the half. We'll have to see what the momentum will be like next period or next half. We have to see if Michigan stays down, if they come back ready to fight, or if they get kind of lethargic again when they come back.
Also, I'll be curious what happens after this timeout. It seemed like Michigan didn't have a whole lot of good momentum going into this placement, so probably a good move by them to be able to regroup, resettle, and hopefully get a goal to tie this game up going into second half.
Yeah, we'll see what Coach has, or Coach Kevin Connery has in his playbook today with 17.5 seconds left.
Not
You
a
know,
whole lot of time.
Not a,
anything can
but
happen.
there's time, you know. Regardless of how much is left, that's still 17.5 seconds. Better than 10 seconds. They take what they can get.
I gotta agree with you. And both teams making their way back to the field. Michigan's maize uniforms are very bright in this night game tonight. Definitely good for audience and viewers to be able to see.
Yes, I'm having I have my own personal difficulties seeing the numbers on these on the players' jerseys. Trying to call this correctly.
Michigan has possession. Just over 10 seconds left, making a quick break towards the goal. Number 9 has possession, lines up to shoot, and he shoots and scores. Number 9, Josh Zawada, once again, scores for Michigan, tying this game up at 6-6 with 3.8 seconds left.
And you know what was said? 17.5 seconds is all that they needed.
Crazy.
It seems like you were right. They got back together. They regrouped. They calmed down. You know, like regardless of the amount of energy that is there, they still needed to expel that energy and kind of regroup together and not allow the momentum of the game to fog their head or to rush. You know, they've seemed very, very calm in this
Michigan
17
wins the
seconds.
face-off, tries to roll it into the net with about 2 seconds left, but misses and takes us into a tied game of 6-6 at halftime. What do you think has been done well this game by Michigan offense and defense?
I think that they've slowed down. You know, before we saw both teams trying to rush and make plays and really just shoot wide or attack right at the middle for really no conclusion or no solution to that. So I think they're doing a very, very good job in keeping the pace of the game, allowing the energy to fuel their playmaking, but not letting it overpower their decisions.
I have to agree. It's been a pretty good game so far. Definitely excited to see what happens in the second half. So everyone stay tuned for our coverage of the second half of Michigan and Johns Hopkins lacrosse game.
We stopped the game today with Michigan and Johns Hopkins tied at 6-6 with at halftime, and we'll be back in 15 minutes. Hello and welcome back to the Michigan men's lacrosse game against the number 8 nationally ranked Johns Hopkins Blue Jays against the Michigan Wolverines. Right now we have 1 minute and 38 seconds left in the halftime. The score right now is 6-6, and we're excited to get started again and see who is going to take the lead in the win in this first Big Ten matchup for both teams.
Pretty exciting game so far. So we have, as Noelle just said, tied score of 6-6, just over a minute left until game resumes. Both teams' goalies are warming up back on the field, and both goalies have done a pretty good job so far. I do have to say, Michigan's goalie, Shane Carr, he let in 6 goals, but he also had 6 saved goals, compared to Johns Hopkins goalkeeper, Marcial, who has 2 saved goals.
Yep, we see the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays coming back out of the tunnel today. A lot of energy, a lot of excitement as both teams come out tied in this game. So the score is 6-6. So we'll see if which team decides to take the lead today.
It's a pretty chilly game under the lights, and this is the Wolverines, I believe, 3rd time night game. They're 2-1 in all-time night games. They have 2 wins against Air Force, or 1 win against Air Force in 2018 and 1 over Ohio State in 2019.
You know, I think Michigan has a slight of an advantage playing at night in these weathers right now. Ann Arbor today was a little bit chilly, kind of windy. But the temperature right now is 35 under the stadium lights. It seems like there's a little rain, little flurries. Whereas in Baltimore, we don't really see that much of this kind of dreary weather. So we'll see if that at all affects the effort of the Blue Jays or the progress that they make today.
Pretty impressive for both teams to not have any thermal gear on, I have to say. I'm a bit chilly looking at them.
It's cold up here in the media booth.
Gotta
what can I say?
agree
Open the windows.
But both teams back on the field. Final huddles before regaining their spots. And we'll see who wins this face-off. See who has the first advantage in this half of the game. But so far, a pretty exciting game, and excited to see what happens next.
All right, now we have number 30 on Johns Hopkins coming in for the face-off against number 37 on Michigan. We'll see who wins the face-off at the start of the second half.
A lot of energy on both sidelines. And pretty packed stands tonight, I have to say. A good showing for this game. Face-off is about to begin. The ball is loose and scramble for the ground ball, but picked up by Michigan. Tight defense by Johns Hopkins, and Michigan carries the ball down the field. A shot on goal and saved by Johns Hopkins goalie.
A lot of aggressive defense coming out of the tunnel for Blue Jays. The ball seems to recovered by, there's a ground ball being fought for right now and right in front of the goal net.
I'm surprised a whistle wasn't blown sooner.
Yeah, it was a ground ball picked up by Michigan Ryan Schreiber.
A lot is happening. A little unsure what was happening for a little bit, too.
All right, the refs just called it. It is Michigan ball. It was a shot by Michael Boehm. It was this, and then saved by the goalie, Tim Marseille.
Michigan has possession still, passing it around, taking their time, settling into play. Passes it back up to number 29, who slowly makes his way down, looking for either a pass or an open route to shoot and score. He elects to pass to number 27, who is saved by the Johns Hopkins goalie. A bit of a scramble there. Hard to see what happened, but a nice save by Johns Hopkins as they try and clear the ball up the field with very tight and aggressive defense.
It seems like they're double teaming at right at the block M in midfield. Loose ball recovered, lost again for a third time, recovered by Johns Hopkins, number 16,
whistle is blown. I have to say, I wonder if it was an offsides call or what, but Michigan has the ball, shoots on goal, and number 9
Josh
shoots and
Zuwada
scores. A
scores.
strong start to Michigan, making the score 7-6 with 13:45 in the quarter.
That was quite the start to the second half, Nina.
I have to say, a lot of back and forth, a lot of confusion and
A
scrambling.
lot of confusion, a lot of aggressive
A
defense
lot of
on both
aggressive
teams. You know, the refs are really letting these two teams play today. The start of their Big Ten, you know, it was Josh Zuwada's 17th goal of the season, assisted by Michael Cosgrove, his second assist. And now we see again the two teams coming together for the face-off.
Pretty impressive showing by both defenses. And I have to say, Michigan defense did a great job at stopping Johns Hopkins from clearing it, allowing them to score later. Michigan wins the faceoff yet again, passing the ball down along the field, taking it behind the net, passing it up to number 9, Josh Zuwada, once again.
A lot of quick ball movement today.
Michigan has the ball, kind of taking a step back. Some tight defense by Johns Hopkins and some substitutions for Michigan offense. Michigan's holding on to the ball back behind the net, slowly working their way up with some tight Johns Hopkins defense, who takes down a Michigan player who didn't have possession of the ball, and intercepted by Johns Hopkins, number 7, who takes it all the way down the field. Passes it to number 11, who goes around front, passes it to number 40, who winds up to shoot and scores. So Johns Hopkins ties the game up. Quick response, making the score 7-7 with 12:48 left in this quarter.
Another answered goal today, Nina. We're only 2-3 minutes into the game right now, and each team has already scored. It's really interesting to see the way that, regardless of Johns Hopkins being ranked number 8, Michigan is really keeping up today.
I have to say, it's been very back and forth. And that goal was scored by Garrett Degnan and assisted by Russell Melendez. Michigan wins the faceoff, taking it down the field, charging towards the goal, but taking a step back to settle the ball. Number 40 for Michigan has possession, passes it back behind the net to another Michigan player. Back to number 40, who passes it to number 27, Aiden Mullenfield, to 29. Peter Thompson has possession, slowly charges his way towards the goal, passes it up and back, loose ground ball, and it appears to be recovered by Michigan about midfield. Tight Johns Hopkins defense right now, though, I have to say. But Michigan successfully passes it back, goes quite high, so a pretty handy catch. Number 27 tries to charge towards the goal, but doubled up on by defense. Aggressive defense. Michigan has control and shoots and scores, making a score. A little confusion down there. A lot of... Actually, I don't believe that was a score. Looks like they...
No, it seems like the shot went wide by Ryan Cohen today. Score is still 7-7 with 11 minutes and 27 seconds in the start of the second half. We see the ball passed up to number 51, Pacheco, looking for a play at the top of the Michigan side. He runs, he passes it to the 23, a long shot all the way top to the midfield, looking for a play. Defense isn't letting him find anything. Pass to number 40, behind the net, up to the top. Number 23, looking for something. Number 16, a lot of checking right now from the Michigan defense. He's looking, cut through the defense. Shot goes wide over the goal. Number 41, the goalie Carr, not allowing the ball to penetrate the goal. All right, and we see a turnover for the Blue Jays. They
Michigan drops the ball, picked up by Johns Hopkins. Quick turnaround, and a pretty empty defense there as Johns Hopkins shoots, tries to score, goes high, but regains possession. Some
You
quick
know,
substitutions.
yeah, it seems like that was a turnover by Michael Cosgrove over on the far side of the field today. A lot of turnovers, a lot of shot attempts that aren't going in for both teams. I feel like they're rushing it a little bit.
I do have to say, I feel like most of the turnovers are caused by incomplete catches, too.
Mhm.
So definitely quick speed of play, but leaving some room for some errors for both teams. Johns Hopkins has control of the ball. Number 9 carries it towards the front, shoots, and scores.
Putting the on the score clock today at 8-7 with the Blue Jays leading and taking the lead. 8-7 with 9 minutes and 58 seconds left on the clock. Wow. That's all I have to say right now,
A
Nina.
lot is going on, and I believe that was scored by Brendan Grimes. But both teams are at face-off once again.
We see the Michigan defense. Oh,
An unassisted goal by Brendan Grimes at 9:51.
his 12th of the season.
Pretty impressive showing for him.
Yeah, he's doing pretty well today. Michigan has only taken 17 shot attempts today, whereas Johns Hopkins has taken 25.
Michigan has possession, slowly bringing their way down the field. Number 29 kind of makes a break, passes it to 9, who shoots. It goes wide over the
That
net.
was a shot attempt by Josh Suwada. He shot it wide of the net, a little bit outside of the range that he was looking for. Also deflected by the goalie as well on the Johns Hopkins side.
Michigan still has possession, trying to make something happen with 9 minutes left. An attempted shot, but recovered by the goalie. Johns Hopkins attempts to clear it with some tight defense by Michigan.
A lot of pressure right now on the top of the Johns Hopkins side.
Definitely a lot of strong Michigan defense.
Right now, double teaming.
Pretty
at
aggressive, too,
number
I have
20.
to say. Both teams have had a hard time clearing, I would say. Some pretty strong defense. But it seems number 3 for Johns Hopkins has the ball and is settling into play on attack. Some substitutions for both teams, with number 49 just entering the game for Johns Hopkins, taking the ball around the net, passes it back behind to 23. The ball is back behind the net for Johns Hopkins, slowly making their way around. Back to number 43. He wraps around, winds up to pass it, slowly circling their way around. But it looks like number 43 attempted, but good defense by Michigan from making a good charge towards the net. Still slowly passing the ball around the net. And number 9 for Johns Hopkins barrels over a Michigan defenseman. Passes it back around, and shot clock runs out of time.
Another shot clock violation.
And
We have
also a flag on the play.
that is the first flag that we have seen all game, at least that I've seen. They have the referees have really allowed these teams to battle out each individual goal. And it's really impressive to see how the teams are just fighting with each other to really get the win for their first Big Ten face-off.
And as it appears, Johns Hopkins number 23 in the penalty box. That is Jacob Angelus for Johns Hopkins.
We'll see how Johns Hopkins defense does right now with one man down. We'll see if Michigan can capitalize on the opportunity to actually make another goal and answer their deficit right now of one goal behind Johns Hopkins with a score of 8-7.
Michigan has the ball, has it on offense, passes it behind the net. Again, very tight defense, but passes it up and around, making some fake attempts at shooting, but continuing to pass it around, trying to distract Johns Hopkins defense, I believe.
Quick movement
and pass and score by Michigan.
That is a shot, putting again the score up to 8-8 tie. They have been tied. The two teams have been tied the entire game. you know, with I want to say no more than a 2 deficit lead for Johns Hopkins in the first quarter. We see today that both teams are answering each other almost simultaneously. Michigan took advantage of the man down on the Johns Hopkins side and really allowed for the game to not fall behind.
The goal was scored by Bryce Clay for Michigan and assisted by Aiden Mulholland. So again, good back-to-back plays by both teams. A very exciting game for viewers here today.
Very exciting. A lot of energy today in the stadium.
A lot of energy. A lot of energy. Michigan wins the face-off, so has control of the ball once again. Taking the ball up, players coming in and out, settling into who's actually getting playing time today. Number 22 for Michigan has the ball, Isaac Aronson, slowly making his way behind the net, making it charged closer to the net, but passes it back behind. A pass to number 2 for Michigan, and a score by Jake Bonomi.
That was a very, very impressive play called today. They had a lot of movement on the far side of the field, really opened everything up, allowed the defense to really spread out and not use their man coverage. They had a little bit of gaps with the assists, or with the assisting in their defense. So allowing Michigan to score, especially with the deficit that they're feeling right now.
And yeah, that one was scored by Jake Bonomi and assisted by sophomore Ryan Cohen. And this was Jake Bonomi's 6th goal of the season for the senior.
Very, very nice.
Johns Hopkins wins this face-off, the first one they've won in quite a bit, taking advantage of this momentum, but picking up the ball they just dropped. Settling more into the pace of play, waiting for their offensive players to make their way down the field. Johns Hopkins starts to move with the ball closer to the net, with number 37 having possession, 31 having possession, passing it back behind the net, who passes it back to number 36. Johns Hopkins still has possession, but some strong defense from Michigan, preventing them from crashing in to score. Slowly circling the ball around the net. Number 31 tries to charge in towards the net, backs off and passes it back behind the net to number 51, who takes it up and around, goes for the score, and it is recovered by Michigan defense. Michigan number 21 tries to bring the ball up the field, and they successfully clear it all the way down. Number 9 for Michigan passes it around. Michigan settling into offensive attack. Number 40 for Michigan passes it to number 3, who makes a break closer to the net. Running behind the net. Passing it back behind the net once again. Some strong defense by Johns Hopkins. Michigan continues to circle it around, passing it around and around.
Check.
A wide pass goes out of bounds, and it is Johns Hopkins' ball.
Michigan did a beautiful job of clearing that press.
I do have to say, it was very quick and efficient.
It was clean, concise. The players knew exactly where they were supposed to be. Got straight to the top.
You can tell they've been practicing that.
Yeah. Number 6 and number 9.
Johns Hopkins having a much harder time clearing it. They successfully bring it down the field, settling into play, holding the ball down behind the net, but passing it up and around. Back to number 31 on Johns Hopkins. Number 9 for Johns Hopkins makes a break closer to the net, shoots and scores. And that was scored by, once again, Brendan Grimes, who's, I feel like he's been a strong scorer for Johns Hopkins this half.
Yeah, the Blue Jays have definitely been stepping up their game when it comes to balancing out the players that have been scoring, which is not off-brand for them also. You know, they have a very balanced team when it comes to scores. You know, on the Michigan side, we see Josh Zawada coming in behind Ryan Cohen taking in most of their points. But for the Blue Jays, their team seems to really spread out the goals made by each player instead of having reliance on just one solid player.
And speaking of balanced, we are tied once again in this game with a score of 9-9 with 4:15 left in this quarter. Both teams are in for a timeout, quick huddle, seeing what they can improve on. But I do have to say, as a viewer, it's been a very exciting game to watch.
Yes.
Definitely a lot more to come, though. Very excited. It seems to be very even, too. Like, one team will score and then the other will answer. Or one team will score twice and the other team will answer twice. Very impressive by both players and teams.
You know, we've seen that both Michigan and Johns Hopkins have almost had equal turnovers, which is kind of goes on brand for what this game is showing today. You know, right now we're at a score of 9-9, and the turnovers for Michigan and Johns Hopkins is 13-10. You know, like usually you see a team falling behind a little bit more when the turnovers are higher. But, you know, Michigan has been taking the lead in this game, even though they have more turnovers with 13-10. Which I think goes to show how the energy and the consistency between these two teams is not faulting for either one.
Definitely an exciting game. Both teams back at the face-off. Whistle blown, and it is Johns Hopkins' possession. Number 26 for Johns Hopkins carries it down the field, passes it back to number 6, who passes it off once again to another teammate of his. A lot of substitutions going on currently, settling into pace of play and everything. But Johns Hopkins holds on to possession right about midfield. Passing it back and forth, waiting for their players to settle in before taking it closer to the net, which number 25 appeared to do right now. Johns Hopkins still has possession, passes it back closer to the net behind it. Makes a run towards the goal, shoots and scores. So Johns Hopkins just responded to their own goal right now, making the score 10-9, Johns Hopkins with the lead.
This is the first time in I think this period, right, or the period before, that we've seen Johns Hopkins ahead. They were falling behind a little bit at the start of this quarter and the start of last quarter. They were, you know, 1-for-1, Michigan always having the top deficit for this game. But now the goal was shot by Russell Melendez, and we'll see his 14th of the season.
Very impressive. A bit of a scramble at midfield for the face-off possession, and a lot of anger by both coaches as Michigan gets possession. Taking it down the field, passing it back and forth, settling into their pace of play. Number 40 for Michigan has possession, waiting for his teammates to come down past midfield. Slowly holding on to the ball, passes it off to Michigan's number 15, Jacob Jackson. Number 29 now has possession. Brings his way down the field. Winds up, shoots, and it goes wide. And it appears to stay Michigan's ball. Michigan passes it off to number 27, Aiden Mulholland.
With Michigan as a strong attack team, we'll see how they do right now. With Josh Suwata running around the net, not finding anything, to number 29, skipped away, recovered by Johns Hopkins.
That was some good defense by Johns Hopkins down, very tight. And Johns Hopkins clears it down the field with some tight defense by Michigan.
A lot of pressure right now.
Number 18 brings it down, passes it back and around.
Slow movement today for Johns Hopkins during this possession. We're back at midfield with number 33, passing it up to number 19, the block M. Up to number 9, Grimes, taking it in to 49, passing it far side of the field, looking for something, looking for a play to number 40.
Winds
Shot
up for the
attempt.
shot, and looks like it was deflected by the goalie, but recovered, and Michigan tries to clear the ball back to their own offensive side.
All right, ball movement on the Michigan side, passed up the field. Far side block, and there's some pressure. Passed up to number 40, Ryan Cohen.
Makes it through the pressure, but quickly drops the ball as Johns Hopkins regains possession on their own defensive side. Facing some tight defense from Michigan, trying to recover the ball. A
Ball-
big lob goes out of bounds, and
I see that
it is ruled to be Michigan ball.
we saw two turnovers almost consistently for both teams.
And
You know,
almost another one with the dropped
almost.
catch right there.
Exactly. We see the ball come in again. Pass to number 5 on the Michigan team, up to number 40, Ryan Cohen. They're slowing it down a little bit. Up to the top for Jackson. Still top of the midfield. 29, Thompson. Looks for something. Doesn't find it. Is keeping it at the top. The block M. Slow movement. Looking for something. Allowing his men to set up. Set up the play.
Looks like going to be a bit of a one-on-one situation to get past this
Yeah.
Johns Hopkins defender, but he easily and skillfully does.
Thompson.
Passes it back and around.
Number 9, Josh Sawada passes it in. Looking for movement. Number 15, shot attempt.
Reflected by the goalie, a large scramble for the ball right now. A lot of slashing and dashing.
Oh, ball recovered at the end of the third period, putting the Blue Jays on top with 10-9. Michigan had an attempt to make another goal and really put this team back at 10-10, but you know, they wasted a little bit of time, Nina, in the midfield. They didn't really allow Johns Hopkins didn't really allow them to recover and get back on top. So why do you think that they wasted so much time at the midfield?
You know what? It looked like they were waiting for a play to be set up, but unfortunately that play just never came. And you could see kind of the stress on Michigan's players' faces, some of them holding their helmets with their hands as the clock ran out.
But you see, like, that's the difference between Michigan and Johns Hopkins right now, is Johns Hopkins will go down there and make an attempt themselves without being told what to do. Whereas Michigan, they waited at the top of the block M for maybe 15 seconds, ran the clock down, and allowed their men to set up with no movement. And I think that's where the two teams are kind of at the deficit right now, putting Johns Hopkins on top with 10 rather than 9. So it just shows that the veteran and the seasoning that this team has over Michigan is quite impressive. But, you know, you can't not give Michigan credit for the amount that they've held on today and almost had the lead for the majority of the game. We have Mr. Brightside playing right now. Nice little staple for the University of Michigan, if anybody understands what it's like here in Ann Arbor.
Also, under the lights, unclear if it's raining, misting, snowing, but some pretty gross weather outside here, so
Some of the beautiful, beautiful perks of being in Ann
the
Arbor
Midwest.
tonight. Yes.
some good Midwestern lacrosse versus East Coast lacrosse.
Oh, yeah. Well, Nick, this is actually a very, very exciting game today, Nina.
Very exciting. And yeah, so the score is Michigan 9, Johns Hopkins 10, about 30 seconds until the last quarter resumes, and we will see if Michigan is able to respond to Johns Hopkins' most recent goals and tie the game up or potentially take the lead, but we will find out in this next and final quarter.
Yeah, we had Johns Hopkins come in with 2 goals back-to-back with no answers from Michigan. You know, we have Michigan number 38 and 39 on Johns Hopkins come in today for the face-off. Starting again at the start of the 4th period.
Both teams on the field at the face-off.
At the end of Mr. Brightside.
Michigan wins the face-off easily. It passes the ball down to Michigan's number 40, who settles into his groove of play, waiting for an open player or an open net. passes it behind the net to number 5.
No, not really much movement right now, you know. A lot of stagnation up to number 29 on Michigan's side at midfield. Number 15 is looking for movement. You know, they're setting it up, moving around. Not really opening up much for the players. You know, a lot of shot attempt recovered by Johns Hopkins goalie, lobbed across field to the midfield. No coverage, breaking the press. Number 46, shot attempt. It bounces in front of the goal, recovered by Johns Hopkins. Number 40, looking for movement, looking for a play on the far side of the field, comes through. He's looking. Number 16, pressure, not allowing him to make a connection to his teammates. Pass up to midfield. Number 16 runs around, deflected. 31, shot attempt. Shot goes wide. Recovered. It's going to be Johns Hopkins' ball. Takes it back in. Number 51. Wide play right now by Johns Hopkins back at the top of the block M. Seems like there's going to be an attack. Number 25 goes behind the net to his teammate. Back up to 40. He's rushing, getting past the Michigan defense. Number 16 passing it around the net, trying to find an opening in the Michigan defense. Number 40 takes it around, looking for something. Shot attempt goes off the goal post. You know, there's a lot of movement today. Kind of not as much as we saw in the first period, Nina, but they're moving. Definitely Johns Hopkins is trying to increase that lead that they have and capitalize on the momentum that the stadium is giving them right now.
Definitely a much quicker pace of play this half. I have to say, you were very right on that call. But Michigan has control of the ball, waiting for the whistle before they can bring their game to start. A little unclear with what's happening with the refs, but some quick substitutions. Michigan has control of the ball and trying to clear it.
A lot of aggression today on the Michigan sideline. Both coaches seem very, very upset with the ball. Dropped ground ball. Recovered by Johns Hopkins on the Johns Hopkins side. Number 51 makes a rush. Shot and goal.
By number 40 for Johns Hopkins. I have to say, that was definitely, I don't want to say a lucky break because there was a lot of skill involved. But
that was a turnover, Nina, that the Michigan
team
did not need. You know, they dropped it before they even made it to half field. You know, they dropped it. It was recovered by Johns Hopkins. It was rushed. It was recovered by Jonathan Peshko and shot by Garrett Degnan, his 25th of the season, assisted again by Peshko, who picked up that ground ball, and for a score, making the score now 11-9.
Johns Hopkins wins the faceoff, keeping their momentum going. Michigan defense kind of scrambling here as Johns Hopkins quickly brings the ball down the field. Number 31 has the ball, slowing down the pace of play slightly, letting their own offensive players come in and settle in.
Number 31 looking for something, pass to number 9 in the top field. He's cradling, looking for something. Number 9, not really letting any penetration go through by the Michigan defense. Number 24 playing some strong defense. A little bit of movement by the goal. Number 9 looking for movement on the near side of the field. Kind of staying wide away from the net, not really making any attacks at the moment. Number 9 Number 24 not letting number 9 go in and make a shot with his teammates. Number 23 passes it up. Number 40 looking for a shot. Shot goes wide. Shot goes over the net. That was a shot attempt by number 40, their leading scorer, Degnan. Number 31 passes it up to number 9. Shot attempt. Shot goes in. Shot scored. Again.
Johns Hopkins takes advantage of this momentum, making the score 12-9. We were saying a lot earlier how it was going back and forth,
Yeah.
unless Michigan happens to score 3 consecutive goals. seems that our earlier prediction might have been wrong.
Oh, my fault. That was a score by Brendan Grimes, his 14th of the season, assisted by Russell Melendez.
A lot of familiar names on the Johns Hopkins team. Definitely a lot of power players on their roster.
You know, this is something that we saw against Notre Dame. They fell behind and they did not really have time to recover. Number 40 on the Michigan offense, trying to find an opening to match the team's, to match Johns Hopkins' 3 goals.
Michigan has possession behind the net, slowly settling into play. Number 9, Josh Sawada, has the ball. Taking it behind the net, trying to make his way around defenseman. Passing the ball up and around. Number 5 for Michigan passes it behind the net once again. Johns Hopkins doing a great job of pressure, but number 22 shoots and deflected by Johns Hopkins goalie.
It's a ground ball recovered, a ground ball again for the second time.
A big
Ball's
scramble,
in the air.
goes out of bounds, and it remains Michigan possession.
You know, Michigan got lucky with this possession because right now they really need an answer to these 3 goals. You know, the 2 that were unanswered in the third quarter, and then now the one that Johns Hopkins opened up this quarter with. So, all right, number 9, Josh Sawada, cradles it behind the net. We're settling into play, looking for an opening. Pass number 3, shot scored by the Michigan offense, putting the score now at to 13, or my fault, to 11-12, Michigan.
Michigan's Bryce Clay appeared to have made that goal, assisted by Josh Sawada. It was Bryce Clay's 7th goal of the season, and I happen to know he is a graduate student, so he came back for a 5th year, clearly making his name known on the field for his potentially final year at Michigan.
That's very exciting for Michigan team. You know, Nina, I think we spoke a little bit too soon. Michigan has not given up at all in this game, and I think only time will tell to see who wins.
Time will tell. Still a lot of play left. Just over 10 minutes left. Scramble at the face-off. A lot of elbows. It looks like.
No recovered. Nothing was recovered at face-off right now.
Still a big scramble.
A lot of sticks flying right now. 30. A lot of. Ooh.
A lot of pouncing and. Everything.
There seems to be a lot of checking, but no calls.
Michigan appears to get possession there, though, after all of that scramble.
It seems like it was a face-off won by Johns Hopkins, but then the ground ball that was picked up later by Johns Hopkins as well.
And then turned over and picked up and turned over, but at the end of all of that, Michigan has possession of the ball. Slowly settling, shoots for someone who was not looking.
Number 27 did
by
not
Johns
see
Hopkins.
the ball.
A bit of a miss for Michigan. Johns Hopkins shoots, it goes wide.
All right. It seems like Johns Hopkins remains in possession of the ball. It seems like the wind is going crazy right now, Nina.
I know. It's very cool to see the rain under these lights. It's going in quite literally every direction possible.
I can't imagine what it's like being on the field right now.
I know. You have to wonder how the wind plays into the conditions and the pace at which the game is being
We have
played.
Johns Hopkins in possession of the ball right now to number 40, Degnan, looking for one of his teammates. 25, pass near field to 23, looking for an attempt top of Michigan's side. Number 25 looking to make an attack. Nothing there. Pass back to number 51, Pacheco. Number 25 stopped by Michigan defense. Up to number 51, makes his way around, doesn't find anything on the top. Oh, dropped by number 20, or by 16 on the Johns Hopkins offense. Number 40 looking to make an attempt again at the top of the field. A lot of movement at the top of the field. Number 51.
A lot of movement. Johns Hopkins
Number
loves to play up
16
top.
lost the ball again when they was passed to him. Lucky to make the recover. Looking for an opening. Goalie does not allow his shot to be made. With the shot clock running out with one shot attempt right at the buzzer.
A lot of excitement on Johns Hopkins bench.
You know, Nina, it seems like they were having a lot of movement at the top of their offense, but nothing was happening. You would think that their offense would spread out and allow their men to have a little bit more room to play, but there was really nothing going on when it came to playmaking.
There was definitely a lot more movement up at the top compared to Michigan, who has been playing pretty much from behind the net pretty much the entire game.
Yeah, a lot of stomping right now in the Michigan men's lacrosse stadium. You know, both teams are just have a lot of energy tonight.
A lot of enthusiasm, both by the
Number 9
fans, the benches.
Yes, of course. Number 9 at the top of the end did not receive the pass well. Pass it now. We're down to the behind the goal. Johns Hopkins making their way around the field using a lot of the area that they're given. Number 16 pass to number 9. Number 9 looks to make a play. Looks to attack the middle. Michigan defense does not let him make through. Ball picked up by number 13. Or my fault, number 23. Looks behind the net. Oh, checked by number 18 on the Michigan team. Looking to make a play. Comes tight around the goal. Shot attempt. I believe it was a goal for the Blue Jays. Kind of quick paced, very tight to the goal.
Making it an even bigger lead now for Johns Hopkins, 13-10.
You know, Nina, they kind of did the opposite of what I expected during this game. That was a goal by Russell Melendez. Another one for him, his 15th of the season. These numbers just keep going up for Russell.
I know, he has quite a few of the game, too, as well.
Yeah, that was a very tight goal for him. Like, he circled around. He looked for that opening, caught the Michigan defense off guard. We have
bit of a scramble at the face-off. Michigan ends up with possession, trying to bring their way down the field past these Johns Hopkins defensemen. Michigan winds up for the shot. A big scramble, big defense, and it's recovered by Johns Hopkins. Johns Hopkins tries to clear it. About to face some Michigan defensemen. Johns Hopkins holds on to possession down in Michigan's defense. Slowly settling into play, passing it back up right about midfield to number 49.
Michigan has won 16 faceoffs, while Johns Hopkins has only won 11. So, interesting statistics to see the way that these possessions are playing out.
Definitely. Johns Hopkins has the ball, passes it back behind the net and around, trying to make a play happen. Number 31 breaks around the crease, but passes it back to number 49. Some tough defense from Michigan. And number 9 winds up to shoot, but recovered by Michigan goalie. Michigan attempts to clear it. Number 24 tries to pass. Some great defense by Johns Hopkins, and they're still in their own defensive territory trying to clear it. Michigan passes it up, but wide pass, scramble for the ground ball, picked up by Michigan, deep behind the Johns Hopkins net. Michigan seems to be waiting for a few of their more offensive players to come down from midfield and are settling into a play to try and make something happen in these last 5 minutes and 30 seconds of the game. Number 22 has control of the ball, slips and falls. Some tight defense by Johns Hopkins, making his way up around the net, shooting and scoring.
Nope.
Saved by Johns Hopkins goalie.
Didn't seem like Michigan made that one. It seemed like it hit the outside of the net. Johns Hopkins moving it around to number 31. Shot scored by Johns Hopkins again, putting them at a lead of 14-10. Very, very impressive movement and speed and precision by the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays tonight.
There was a bit of a missed opportunity for Michigan. They were able to clear the ball after doing quite good on defense, but Johns Hopkins ultimately came out on top with that recovery, and then Michigan just called a timeout to potentially try and regroup and see what they can make happen in this last 5 minutes and 6 seconds left of play in the game.
You know, Nina, it doesn't seem like the Michigan defense is able to shut down Russell Melendez. That was his 16th goal of the season. All of the last 5 of which have been here in Ann Arbor in the Michigan Men's Stadium.
He has also gotten 3 assists this game. He is one of the top scorers for the Johns Hopkins team, and quite impressive.
So now teams are here today huddling. It's seeing how Michigan is able to come back in 5 minutes. You know, we saw this against Notre Dame. They lost they were at lead at Notre Dame the first half of the game, and then as soon as they lost that lead and went into a deficit, they just kept digging a deeper and deeper hole for themselves, which is something that is very uncharacteristic of them. But we'll see today if that becomes solidified with another loss, if they do end up losing today with the score right now at 5 minutes and 6 seconds left in the entire game.
In this half, the second half, Johns Hopkins has scored a total of 8 goals compared to Michigan's 4 this half. So Johns Hopkins has definitely been dominant. But both teams regained their positions on the field with the face-off about to begin momentarily.
All right, we start again at 5 minutes left. We're the face-off, waiting for possession to begin. Refs are waiting for something to be called. Face-off begins. Recovered by Michigan. Face-off won. Number 38 takes it midfield. Keeps it in midfield. Passes it in to Josh Zawada. Looking for position of his men. Kind of taking it slow. Taking some time. Keeping it in midfield. Michigan right now. Trying to get past the midfield defenders.
Settling into pace of play and intercepted by number 46 for Johns Hopkins, who takes it all the way down the field, shoots and scores. So that was definitely some great offensive work by Johns Hopkins.
That was a really interesting time right now that just passed through. You saw Josh Zawada held the ball for a little bit, passed it across the field, but the midfield defender stuck out his stick and just it almost seemed like it happened in slow motion. He came through, stuck his stick out, and just ran down the field for a score. That was very, very slow paced, but a lot happened in that slow pace. That was a goal by Patrick Deans, his 3rd of the season, with 4 minutes and 31 seconds left on the clock today. We get back to Michigan possession right now. Number 40 takes it down, runs to the near side of the field, trying to find an opening to number 5 behind the net, trying to make a play. Up to Josh Zawada, number 9, back to midfield. We're waiting to see if they'll be able to recover. Trying to find a play. Runs down the field, near side. Swing around to the back. Opening up the field. Seems like Johns Hopkins is playing a tight defense. Michigan shot attempted, hit the outside of the net. Recovered by Johns Hopkins. They're making it down the field, clearing. Number 12. Clear attempt is good.
Tight defense by Michigan right now, and Johns Hopkins drops the ball. Loose ground ball, but recovered by Johns Hopkins, number 23.
Pass back to behind the goal with Johns Hopkins possession. They're taking their time, slowing down the game. Up to midfield, number 51. Keeping it in midfield right now. Over to the far side, keeping it far from the goal at the moment. Trying to set up the guys, set up something quick, easy for another goal. Looking, tight Michigan defense. Not letting him get past the maze. Behind the goal, over to the far side. Swinging it around. A lot of movement around the net tonight. Number 16 looking for some penetration. Shot attempt. It goes wide. Great defense from
Great
Michigan.
defense by
You know, they're
Michigan.
look a little sleepy tonight, but they're recovering. That was a timeout, Michigan. Lot to discuss in the Michigan huddle right now.
Lot to
Nina.
discuss.
Lot to discuss.
The score currently is 15 Johns Hopkins to 10 Michigan. I do have to say, Michigan has done a great job with the face-offs. They've won about 18 compared to Johns Hopkins, who's only won 11. However, if you look at the shots on goal, Johns Hopkins has had 23 shots on goal, which can be compared to Michigan's 16.
You know, what makes you think, or why do you think that the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays are 5 over Michigan right now, considering that they were 1 for 1 for their for their goals in the pretty much all of the first half?
It was definitely, I would even say, going into the third quarter, the first half of the third quarter, it was a very even game. Very play after play after play. Both teams looked great. I honestly don't think I can pinpoint one specific thing. I would definitely say that Michigan's passes have gotten a little weaker. There have been less complete passes by Michigan, more turnovers caused by Johns Hopkins, which is just overall allowed Johns Hopkins to get on some powerful plays.
No, yeah, I agree with that. Like, you see a lot of lob passes for Michigan, whereas Johns Hopkins is like bullet train. They go straight to each person. The ball has direction, has speed, exactly where it's supposed to be. Whereas Michigan's like, oh, it just goes over their head, or it's a lob, not really strong. And that causes turnovers, which is exactly what we saw at midfield when the mid defender basically stuck out his stick and took it directly out of Michigan's hand. Tonight we set up again we got Michigan coming in out of the timeout. Michigan possession coming up the field, clearing it. Goalie at midfield trying to get the ball out of their territory. Number 29 rushes, shot scored
by
for Michigan.
Exactly what Michigan needed with 2 minutes left to play in the game. That, I believe, was shot by Michigan number 22, Isaac Aronson, who was another familiar name from this game, I have to say.
That possession happened very, very out of the blue. I don't think the Blue Jays were ready for that. They seemed kind of lost on the field. They didn't have their men prepared. They had the goalie Michigan had their goalie all the way up to half midfield. So we're going to see again with the face-off who recovers.
Loose ball at face-off, recovered by Michigan once again. Passed off, but tight defense. Johns Hopkins turns it over and picks it up. Gets pummeled by Michigan defense.
We saw Michigan defense come in and almost sandwich body slam the person who had the ball. Number 9, Josh Suwada at midfield. Rushing. Ball lost.
Picked
recovered.
Up by Johns Hopkins. Johns Hopkins takes it down the field, waiting for their own offensive players to come in. Number 77 has control of the ball currently. Starting to face some defense from Michigan. Michigan becoming more aggressive with just over a minute left in the game and a score of 11-15. Johns Hopkins passes it over to number 16.
An ugly lob by Johns Hopkins.
He caught that one on the bounce.
Yeah. All right, again, we see Johns Hopkins looking to make a play. Number 11 coming to defend 16. 51 on the near side of the field. Cradling. Faced in front by number 21 on the Michigan defense. Michigan defense slips, leaving 51 open. Man help defense coming in for number 14 on the Michigan side. Running him across the field to the far side.
Very tight man-to-man defense. Even the goalie is currently man-to-man with the player.
A lot of slipping
out of the
tonight.
crease right now. Definitely the weather has
weather's
very
definitely
big impact. Johns Hopkins has the ball, makes a move towards the open Michigan net, deflected by Michigan's
so
own
much
defenseman.
slipping. I in the last 30 seconds, Nina, I think we've seen 5 players on this field slip and put their face into the grass.
Definitely a physical game, whether caused by a player or
whether caused by the player or the weather. We see again ball recovered by possession lobbed across the field behind the net on the. All right, we see
Michigan with possession finally, trying to make their own final dash with 12 seconds left of the game, bringing it down the field. Number 19 passes it up. Michigan does a wide shot, saved by Johns Hopkins goalie, with the game coming to an end at a final score of 15-11. Johns Hopkins winning.
Nina. What a game!
What
What
a game!
a
is
game!
right.
I feel the game to begin was so very exciting, and toward the end, it was very difficult to watch the Wolverines fall behind with a final score of 15-11. You know, we saw a lot of momentum in the first half coming into the second, but now this is Michigan's second loss in a row, considering that they were in a winning streak they had a 2-game winning streak snap about before they lost to Notre Dame, and now they come in with a 2-game losing streak. So
definitely room for improvement for Michigan, but I do have to say their first half showed that they can hold up well against some top-rated opponents, but definitely some work to do going into some more Big Ten play. Next game is versus Maryland at 1 p.m., so be sure to tune in to our next broadcast.
thank you so much for listening in tonight. This is WCBN Ann Arbor, and as always, good night and go blue.